To all the military spouses in the audience, thank you for your service. Okay, I appreciate that. And my husband is currently about 3 months into a year-long deployment overseas. And she mentioned we have 3 boys. Y'all just hug me when you see me, okay? So, like Bettina mentioned as well, how I accidentally fell in love with the field of college access and post-secondary success. I am a career educator. I studied education when I was in college. I wanted to be a teacher. I've taught all grades 3rd through 12th, Spanish, English, and theology. And I wanted to teach on a collegiate level. A local community college was ready to hire me, and I had the credentials, but I did not have experience in higher education. So I took a position at the University of New Orleans doing college access work, and I liked it a lot, a whole lot. I thought it was going to be a stepping stone. I just needed to get my foot in the door. I knew that this position would also allow me to teach the freshman seminar course, teach something on a collegiate level, and I was going to go back and start teaching Spanish on a collegiate level. That was my professional goal. But as I continued to serve students who were Pell eligible, students who were first-generation college students, I realized that I actually didn't have a lot in common with them. I did not attend public school ever in life. I attended Catholic preschool through graduate school. I was not eligible for the federal Pell Grant. I was not a first-generation college student. And I share that with you because the only thing I had in common with my students was that I was from New Orleans, most of them were commuter students, and that I was a Black or brown person. And to those of you who may think, I don't have fill in the blank in common with my students, how will I be able to connect with them? You will find ways, and I'm going to talk to you about that today. For me, my influence on post-secondary education and going to college was my mom. And my mom is, you know, for me as a Christian, there's God, there's Jesus, and there's Carol Gonzales Washington. And I bring up this slide here. I'm going to bring it back to my mom, but we've all seen these pie charts about when NCAN had the highest when the Pell Grant had the highest purchasing power in the 70s and where it is now, and this is really terrible. Put a pin in that thought, because I want to come back to it. But that first pie chart, think about that. Back to my mom. She's from a rural town called Bogalusa, Louisiana. It's on the Mississippi state line. I know my Mississippi folks in the room know where it's at. Probably more than the Louisiana people. But my mom's from Bogalusa, Louisiana. She was the 7th of 8 children. Grew up in a pretty impoverished situation. 3-bedroom house, 1 room for the 4 boys, 1 room for the 4 girls, 1 room for the parents. My grandparents were domestic workers. My grandmother cleaned the doctor's office and then nannied that doctor's children in their home, cleaned their home as well. So it's very similar to what Catalina Cifuentes was sharing yesterday. I said, did she look at my slide deck? I felt like she was telling my story. But that was the situation that my mom grew up in, Bogalusa, like I said, extremely rural. Just to give you added context, even present day in 2025, the cemeteries are still segregated. Not even the dead can come together. So why do I bring up those pie charts? So 1975, my mom left Bogalusa because she wanted to go to college. And I want you to listen in for a second.
I saw my education as my ticket out of Bogalusa. I had to get out of Bogalusa, and I knew that if I didn't get an education, I would be stuck in Bogalusa. Yeah. You know, and growing up during the racial divide, my first 5 years of elementary school was still during segregation. They integrated the schools when I went into 6th grade.
How many of you are serving students where education is going to be their ticket out of where they're from? Y'all all are. And I bring up those pie charts because when was the historic high of the Pell Grant? In 1975. That was the year my mother started college. But a year later, she had to start working 30 hours a week as a nursing assistant because she could not afford college. We know that 30 hours a week is too many hours for a student to be working and be enrolled full time. It was too many then and it's too many now. And then the very next year, she stopped going to college because she just couldn't afford it. She continued going to school, couldn't pursue her degree, but she did get a nursing diploma, and I emphasize diploma because it was not a degree. Took the same state boards that those who had a degree took, but because hers was not a bachelor's, it limited her employment opportunities. But she did finish that program. Somewhere in there, she said, you know what, I still need to get my college degree. So in 1989, she started taking prereqs so that she could go back to college. Now, somewhere between 1980 and 1989, she met that handsome devil that was my daddy. God rest his soul. And had a couple kids. Yeah, I know some of y'all know my brother in the room. Sorry. Yeah, y'all know that Olin Mills. Y'all remember the Olin Mills photos? I heard y'all, I know. And shout out to the folks doing work like Generation Hope, supporting students who are parents in school, because that is a very niche population that especially needs support. But in 1991, over 15 years after she started college, my mom graduated. Unfortunately, Katrina took the picture when she was in her cap and gown when we were at the graduation, but we do have this one. But I saw my mom graduate, and I actually remember that. I remember going to her graduation. I remember that. And then y'all over here, y'all like those Olin Mill pictures, but do y'all remember glamour shots? I just had to throw that picture in there because it was cute, and I was like, ooh, a glamour shot. We haven't seen glamour shots in a while. But in 1998, y'all, Mom got her master's degree. And I remember that. I can recall my mom waking up so early and going to sleep so late and working full time. And my mom was not a fast food mama. She cooked. She cooked and was raising children and taking care of my dad who was ill and all these things. But I remember that. And I share all of that with you. And this is a photo of my mom and I when I was at a speaking engagement last year for college track. And my mom, she shows up for me. And I'm like, man, and guess what? My mom is here today. My eyes are sweating. But I was not eligible for the Pell Grant. I didn't have to go to failing New Orleans public schools. I was not a first-generation college student because of that woman. And I am the dream that y'all are supporting. I am evidence of that transformational power of post-secondary education. Again, the same issues that were problems 50 years ago should not be the problem today. Students should not have to work full-time and go to school full-time because it's not affordable. So please keep advocating. Please, I know I'm preaching to the choir, but please keep doing what you're doing. You know what Mom told me when I started doing college access work and I fell in love with it? Ooh, I drank the Kool-Aid. It tasted good too. They used the extra pack, like the extra scoop of sugar. And my mom said, I wish I had somebody like you when I was in college. It may not have taken her 15 years. And so this is what I want to leave you with. Even if you don't have all the boxes to check that are the same demographics as your student, I don't have a struggle story to share with you because of that woman. And I don't want for your kids, your students' kids, to have struggle stories either. Education is their ticket out of that situation, out of that city, out of that home that's unsafe to stay in. Also, tell your story. Again, when I started serving students with college access and post-secondary success work, their stories were very familiar, but not because it was my own, because my mom had shared her story with me. And be, appropriately vulnerable. Like Bettina said in my introduction, I never thought that my Katrina experience in college would be relevant in my workspace. But I was like, oh my goodness. I can share this because I know what it's like for my college experience to be interrupted by something that is completely out of my control. And so being able to share that with students was another way to connect and give them hope. And lastly, for every student that you get across the graduation stage, you are impacting at least the next 2 generations. So. You're changing the entire trajectory of your students' family trees. And just like I watched my mom graduate twice, in 2 years, my boys are gonna see me get my doctorate. So, thank you.